anyone out there who's just struggling with their E21 hazard switch, what I did, rather than trying to fix my switch or trying to buy a new one, which is very expensive nowadays, I thought I'd just put on the E30 hazard switch, which I had found some post years back that someone had done, but that did not give a very detailed explanation on the wiring and how to get it set up. So what I ultimately did for right now is I've got the hazard switch just in my glove box right there. I'm not fully decided where I'm going to leave it, but it does work there, and I just put the hazard switch back here as a dummy. And yeah, let's get into the details. Hey guys, so this is the connector, obviously with the hazard switch pulled off, and I just wanted to show you this is the key to the orientation and the diagram that I drew up, which basically shows this part right here. As you can see, it's kind of a half circle right there. This is how I oriented the drawing so that you can exactly understand which pin is getting marked with which color wire. So this is the flat part of the key to the connector, and this is the round part down here. And as you can see, that very top wire, if you with this orientation, the very top wire starts with that brown wire, which is the ground wire, and it goes around with different colors from there. So I will show you the diagram here in a second so that you can understand the approach to making this connector. Alright guys, so this is the connector that I built, which essentially is part of the original hazard switch. And as you can see, the shape, the key to the connector is this half circle with a flat part right there. And that's how the plug connects and mates to the female side of the connector right there. There's that flat part that aligns. So anyway, the point I'm making there is when I show you the diagram of the wiring, it's key to make sure you translate the orientation of this connector and the picture that I have, which is based on this connector, to the plug that you're going to be essentially redoing and reusing in order to create the connector to the new hazard switch, which is from an E30 BMW. So I think it's a good solution. The only thing that I have to worry about now is where do I put this new hazard switch, and I know some people have put it down over here. I've got a fader there for the stereo. I might consider putting it underneath that. I'm also considering putting it basically on the side here next to the fan blower. Haven't fully decided that yet, but that's going to be on an upcoming video. But I'm going to get into the details of the wiring in order for you to be successful on this. And what I had to do on this piece right here, this is the piece that did require some modification in order for me to be able to solder these wires up against these connectors. So I will get into that in a second. Alright, so here is the E30 switch. As you can see, what I've done is I've actually soldered wires directly onto the back of the switch rather than using a switch that has a connector and wiring harness. And what that did was it allowed me to save a few bucks on not having to get that wiring harness, because the problem with that is a lot of these wiring harnesses have wires that are cut short, and I think it's easier to wire or solder wires onto a tab like this rather than trying to join an existing set of wires and extending the wires and all of that. That's a lot more of a pain to solder. So um, this is the E30 wiring or switch, I should say, hazard switch. And what I'm going to do is point out that I've mapped these connectors in a diagram, which is, you're kind of seeing right behind here, that allows you to then know which wire to connect to which prong on the E21 hazard switch. And same deal here. As you can see, I've completely bastardized this switch, hazard switch, by soldering connectors or wires right onto what was part of the connection, onto the switch mechanism. So let me get into the details. Okay, in order to prepare your old, probably burned out hazard switch from the E21, what you're going to notice on yours versus this one is there were some little resistors, or a resistor that was essentially connecting what was the spring inside here to one of the prongs. And basically what you want to be able to do is have each of these prongs pass right through the soldering tab that's beneath or on the other side. You don't want to be relying on some resistor to get power. So in order for that to happen, I found that there were two connectors or prongs, if you can see, that actually didn't connect right to the tab behind the switch. What I found is that I had to jump the connection from this prong, and as you can see, based on the orientation, there are two solder joints right there that I had to make. Essentially, I used a piece of paper clip from the top here, put a little L bend, and soldered it onto the tab in order for me to then solder the back of that tab with the paper clip, so that I'm able to then put a soldered joint with a wire onto the tab itself on the back of the connector. So here's the one right there that has that solder drop on the connector, and once again I've had to run a paper clip all the way to the back so that I'm able to just put the wire right on the front of this piece of soldering tab on the switch. And this other tab here, or connecting prong, had to do the same thing, but didn't have a metal tab that I could solder to. So I actually, if you can see, I actually ran kind of the same situation, a paper clip, put a U bend right there, and was able to create a connecting point. And you can do this obviously in many ways. This is how I did it, and it doesn't have to be this way. But the point is, when you plug the connector onto these 8 prongs, you want it to be a straight pass through to your wires. And the magic happens when you align these wires to the appropriate tab on the E30 switch, or hazard switch. So here's the E30 hazard switch, same deal. The key is to do a little tinning and put a drop of solder onto the tab first, get it nice and hot so that the solder sticks on, and then you do the same thing with the wire, and then you can just connect the wire on. But let's just talk about how I wired this. So It's all about the orientation. So if you look at this switch, there's a sticker right there. Even though it's partially torn off, you'll see there's a serial number or some number at the top, versus the back of this, which is just flat. So that's how I distinguish the orientation of this thing. Um, and the drawing that I have here is the key to this whole thing. As you can see, this is a view of this. And essentially I have a circle right here, which is just showing the BMW sticker as I have right there, just for my sanity. But essentially you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 tabs right there, corresponding to the tabs there. And as you can see, I've got a line map connecting or drawing the specific wires, or I should say prongs, and I took note of the wire color just to make sure I was getting this right. So this is the view of the receiving, the female side of the connector that's connected to the car, right? And as I spoke about earlier, there's that brown wire right there, and there's the prong. Once again, this is the female side, so you have to then reorient your connector so that when you're looking at your actual prong, you look at, well, where's the flat part? It's right there. So that top part is going to be essentially the brown connector. And as you can see, that brown ground is one of the ones that I actually had to create that bridge from that tab down to here. And as you can see, there's the connector I've got. But so here it is right here. This is the key to all this madness, is making sure that each of these colors from your car, E21, you got brown, you got a green yellow, you got a green purple or violet, you got a white blue, or some people call it gray blue, you got a blue black, and then you've got red white, you've got purple black, and then you've got a blue red, and then finally the brown. And each of these, and you'll probably want to pause here, connect to a particular tab on the E30 switch. Once you map it to do your wiring per this diagram, you're going to end up again with your connector. I happen to just have some trailer wire, so they're all the color of these wires are not significant, other than the fact that they go to the right leads. And in a sec here, I'll show you the working hazard switch. All right, guys, so here is the wiring harness all wired up. Of course, I'm going to be putting some electrical tape around those connectors to make sure there's no shorting anywhere. But the good news is when you hit the button, it works. And this is with, of course, the power completely off. So all functionality seems to be restored as far as the hazard switch functionality is concerned. And the only thing now is, where do I put this switch? You can actually fit it right here where the original switch was. You would just have to cut away that little diagram there, which isn't all that valuable in my opinion anyway. Although I haven't decided if I'm going to do that. I'm kind of torn on that, but I'm kind of thinking I won't do that, and I just may put it somewhere on the side here, either underneath that fader switch or knob, or maybe down here next to the fan. I'm not sure, but yeah, so there it is. Again, the other just final tip is just remember, as the drawing I had, make sure you got your orientation on the switch correct, because it does appear to be reversible. I'm not 100% sure on that, but it wasn't quite clear to me whether or not there's a correct orientation or not to this. But Um, just follow the diagram as I have with this label, the BMW, and kind of this box and the code shown. That's what I consider the top, and then wire it accordingly from there per that diagram, and you should be good to go. Leave any comments or questions down below, and hope this helps you out. Thank you.